Dog, what is this? What is it?
All I want to know is y'all ready? Are y'all ready? Because baby, these stories are good. This is going to be a longer video for all my supporters who love the long videos. I got you. This is a longer video, so make sure you get your snacks, popcorn, drink, whatever you are needing, because baby, we going in. I told y'all we doing the witchcraft series. Now this is going to specifically be witchcraft / spooky stories that has happened in New Orleans, y'all. Like, that has been trending on TikTok. So baby, okay, but before we get into that, go ahead and show your girl some love by liking the video and hitting subscribe if you are feeling the vibe. Those interested in remote work, I post usually around 12 to 13 per week. On Fridays, I do non-incoming call-based positions. I have vlogs, story time, all of that is on my personal channel, so I will link that in the comments below, okay? So without further ado, go ahead and watch these crazy New Orleans story times. If there was any cussing, y'all know how I do. I got to do the little editing in there. And one last thing I want to address, okay? I had to remove this person from my channel because I do not do negativity. But on the last video, there was the one girl who said, oh, you already posted these stories months ago, which is completely false and untrue. That's why I'm like, you must not really follow my channel, because no, that's not the case. Now, in the past, have I ever accidentally posted a story again? Maybe. Okay, I post a lot of content, but last video was completely untrue. Please don't get confused with the people telling the story. The first girl, I think she's known as Alien something. You'll see her in the first story. You see her a lot on my channel because she is like the OG, the initiator of the like witchcraft / spell story. So she has thousands and thousands and thousands of videos on her page regarding stories like that, because people send their stories for her to read. So don't get confused with the storyteller versus the story, okay? So without further ado, go ahead and watch the content. And as always, just to make the commentary shorter, I'll say a quick response at the end of each story.
Ask and you shall receive. I am back with another spooky story. And honey, the people from New Orleans get crazy, kind of like the Haitians. Let's get into this spooky voodoo story. We'll call the person who submitted the story Baby Girl. Baby Girl says that she is not originally from New Orleans, but her family is from there. And I'm sorry if I butcher this, but and Opelousas, Louisiana. Baby Girl's auntie is from the Opelousas. She went back home when she was in her 20s, and she only went back home to spend some time with her family as she recently moved to Houston. So as she's home, her family suggests, let's go to Bourbon Street and bar hop. And mind you, this was also around Mardi Gras, so it's lit. They're outside bar hopping, and then the auntie meets this man. Every woman's downfall starts with a man. So auntie and this man liked each other, and they danced all night. So he gave auntie his number, but what he did not disclose to her was that he was in an on-again, off-again situationship. Well, actually, it was a relationship with this whole other woman. But you know, obviously on and off. So her aunt and this man would continue to talk even when she went back home. So auntie gets back home, but things are weird. As soon as auntie gets back home, she starts to feel drained. Not only that, but this feeling of paranoia grew because she felt like she was being watched. Her aunt kept feeling sick and she was getting worse. She would go to the doctor to see what was wrong, but the doctors could not find anything. So the auntie ended up going to her mom and was like, Mom, I don't know what's going on, but she wakes up in cold sweats and she would sleep at night for hours and wake up still feeling tired. And she's also telling her mom that she's having this reoccurring dream about this woman who's angry at her, and she doesn't even know who this woman is. One thing about auntie's mother was that she was a praying warrior. She was one of those moms who would put oils at the door to protect her house, prayed over her children constantly, and went to church faithfully, and she was also a Catholic. And her mom was like, yeah, you look tired, and basically you might have to go to a specialist if things get any worse. But all mom could do was give it to God and pray. And auntie said that the second her mother mentioned the name God, she felt this pressure on her back. And baby girl says, now I should tell you, it's some things that my aunt does not remember because this is where things take a turn. So her mom in her spirit starts feeling like something is wrong because of the fact that she's a religious woman. So auntie's mom starts praying over auntie. So as the mother's praying, things are not feeling right, so she's just going even harder. And that's when auntie completely blacks out. She said the only thing that she remembered was crying and begging for her mother to stop. She later woke up in the hospital and they were saying that she had the flu. She winds up going home and her mother put some religious things in her house. So while auntie was in the hospital, her mother contacted a voodoo priest because her mother knew like something had to be off. And the voodoo priest did her research and found out everything. The voodoo priest tells the auntie's mother that this was all a jealousy thing. Remember the dude with the on again, off again relationship? Yeah, so his on again, off again thing winded up finding out about auntie through him. She probably went through his phone or something and was fully caught up to another woman being in the picture. And that she was not having. So the tea is the on again, off again girlie was going after auntie in her dreams this whole time. Every single time auntie had a dream about this angry woman, it was the on again, off again shorty. And the sick part is every single time she dreamt about this lady, she was only getting sicker. Which is why her auntie was having very vivid dreams about this woman. The voodoo priest then states that her auntie has to do a spiritual bath every single night. Like every night, don't skip one. Church and pray every single day, night and day, to ward off evil. And that is what auntie went on to do. She says auntie does not know about the man's POV because when auntie went back to New Orleans to spend more time with her family, she never saw or heard from that man ever again. The aunt is fully healed now. However, she's very cautious about who she talks to now. I don't know. I didn't know New Orleans was that spooky. In case you really didn't know that this type of stuff goes on in the US, I mean, come on. Thank you guys so much for watching this spooky story. And if this is your first time seeing my face, make sure you follow me on this app. I have longer, better spooky stories on YouTube. 20,000 subscribers, almost close to 21. Woo! Oh my god, thank you guys so much. I love y'all. I love my abducted humans. Make sure you follow me on Instagram just so that I know that it's real. I'm starting to feel like it's not real. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening from your favorite Haitian homegirl.
You really have to be careful with who you're dealing with, okay? Not only might they have physical baggage, they might have spiritual baggage with them as well, like things that you can't see in the physical world, okay? So, you know, most people, they might be like, oh, no, I can't deal with him because his baby mama, or he got this going on, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they got stuff going on in the spiritual world as well. This is not the first story I done heard where a girl dealt with a guy and his ex had heavy ties on him, and anytime he dealt with a new female, she would put like spell work on them. And this is not the first time I didn't heard people getting haunted in their dreams because of a woman holding her ties on somebody. So you have to be careful with who you dealing with, y'all. Like seriously, like you need to pray over that situation. You need to definitely follow your intuition. If anything's telling you, oh no, don't mess with this person, then don't mess with that person. If you are sick and they don't really know what's going on when you go to the doctor, just even if they do say they know what's going on, still consider that it might be something like witchcraft going on if you can't find a cure for it. Like just be careful out here. But I am glad that she recommended the spiritual bath, y'all. I'm telling y'all, something that I was trying to manifest for months was not coming to me until I took a spiritual bath. When I took a spiritual bath, it's amazing how I manifested that right after the spiritual bath, y'all. So don't sleep on the spiritual bath. You might need to cleanse yourself.
From sacrificing chickens to sacrificing humans. I'm going to give y'all a story time about when I first went to New Orleans and what happened. So I went to New Orleans about 6 years ago for the first time. Now, I remember I told y'all that my dad's side is from Shreveport, and I've been there like many, many times, but I'd never been to New Orleans. So I decided to go to New Orleans for my birthday, and that year my birthday was on Mother's Day. So in New Orleans, you know, staying on Canal Street at the Sheraton. And, you know, everything was cool. We go out, we go to the French Quarter. The first day we party hard, party good. Everything was cool. One day, we decided to go to the Garden District. And of course, y'all know from New Orleans, the Garden District is where you see all these beautiful mansions and you see, you know, just all these shops on the street. Well, my son's girlfriend, she wanted to get a tattoo, and the tattoo parlor was in the Garden District. So the tattoo shop, because they were just opening the city from COVID, they wouldn't allow anybody into the tattoo shop. So me and my son was like, cool, you know, we'll just go somewhere and get a coffee. So we go to the coffee shop, me and my son, and we're drinking our coffee. We're sitting outside talking, and all of a sudden, you know, we see this man, and I start talking to the man. You know, everybody's really friendly in New Orleans, and I really love the architecture of New Orleans. So, you know, I'm asking questions about the houses in the Garden District. I'm like, damn, you know, like, that's a huge house. I wonder how much something like that costs. And so, you know, we start talking, and he started telling me about, you know, like, how the historical laws in New Orleans are, and how you can't change the house, you can't change the roof, you can't paint it a different color, you can't do anything without the city's approval. We start talking about that. Very interesting. By the way, New Orleans is a very beautiful city. I just don't understand why y'all have palm trees. I expect to see palm trees only in California and Florida and places like that. But beautiful city, love New Orleans. So I'm sitting there and I'm talking to this guy, and he's telling me about the history of the city. He's telling me, like, you know, general conversation. So all of a sudden he starts to ask me, you know, what do you do? What do you do for a living? So I tell him, you know, I'm a barber. I do hair. I'm a spiritualist. I do spiritual work. I do this. I do that. He said, oh, wow, very interesting. He was like, yeah, I'm into spirituality too. I'm like, cool. Now, this is a white man. I'm like, cool, this is awesome. You know, what do you practice? Well, you know, I just do like a little, you know, I have a lot of friends that they're readers, and some of them are witches and things like that. And I said, oh, cool, you know, interesting. So he says, hey, there's this party that we're having. It's a secret party. It's in the French Quarter, and I'll give you the address. So he gave me the address. He's like, y'all should come by. And we were like, well, what kind of party is it? He's like, well, it'll be a bunch of readers, a bunch of witches, you know, a bunch of people that practice spirituality. It's kind of cool. It's like, kind of like a hidden gem. Like, you have to have a password to get in. And I was like, a password? He was like, yeah. As a matter of fact, let me give you the password. So he wrote the password down. Now, I forgot what the password is, y'all. I don't know what the password was, but he gave it to me. So I take the password. You know, he says he's got to go. He leaves. Me and my son, we're still sitting there. So I'm talking to my son. I'm like, hey, you want to go? He's like, hell yeah, I want to go. Like, this is going to be cool. Because, like, we had already done everything in the city. We done all the tours. We did the French Quarter. We did the history lessons. We did everything. And so my son was like, yeah, I want to go. And I was like, okay. So we met up with my son's girlfriend. She was done getting her tattoo. She wanted to go. And I said, listen, guys, you know, we don't know this person. I don't know this man. I don't know what kind of party this is. We got to be careful. So none of us are to have any drinks or anything to eat when we go in there. Y'all understand? They're like, cool, yeah, we understand. I'm like, okay. Now, my son is an adult. He's an adult, about 22 or something like that, at the time that this happened. And his girlfriend is an adult. So we get ready to go. We go back to our hotel. We get dressed. All of us, you know, we're dressed. We're getting ready to go. And we were taking an Uber. So we called the Uber, and the Uber never showed up. We waited like over an hour from the time that we called the Uber, and the Uber never showed up. That was sign number one. So I'm thinking in my mind, you know, this is a sign. Like, we're not supposed to go there. That's just it. So I said, you know, let me try it again. Call another Uber. The Uber never shows up. So at this point, we're about an hour and a half behind. Like, we were supposed to be there at a certain time. We're way behind. Uber's not showing up. I don't feel like walking all the way to the French Quarter, even though we weren't that far. But the address that was given to us was at the very end of the French Quarter. Like, it was way at the very end. And I didn't feel like doing that. It was warm outside, sweating and stars. I said, you know what, it must not be meant for us to go. I knew right then and there that we were being protected. This wasn't the place that we needed to be. There was something shady going down at this secret party. So we just didn't go. Well, the other day, because y'all know I'm a barber, I'm sitting up here talking about going to New Orleans with one of my clients and how I felt about New Orleans and how I liked the city and when I went, what happened. And basically, I'm telling him the same thing I told y'all. The secret party that I was invited to with the secret password and how we didn't make it. We just wasn't able to get there for some reason. And my client told me, he said, you know what? You're lucky that you didn't go. You're lucky that you didn't go to that party because he said, there's a lot of voodoo that they do in New Orleans. A lot of people do voodoo. And I was thinking, okay, I do voodoo too. He's like, they be sacrificing chickens and they be sacrificing even humans. I said, what? I said, they be sacrificing humans? He said, yeah, at a lot of these secret parties that they invite people to. He said, I had a friend that's in the FBI, and he worked on a case years ago where there was a secret cult in New Orleans, and what they would do is they would have these secret parties where you need a passcode, and what they would do is they would scout for tourists. So if you were in tourists, those are the people that they, invited to these parties most often. Because he said, the people from the city of New Orleans, they didn't want to really deal with those people because they know too much. He said the people from New Orleans, not only do they know too much and they know better, like not to attend something like that, but they never know who they're connected to. And I said, oh, wow. He said, yeah, they got busted years ago. A secret cult, they were sacrificing chickens and roosters and even humans. He said, so you're lucky that you didn't go because you don't know who that was or who you were talking to or what that party was about. And I said, yeah, you know what? I agree. But I knew there was a reason why, for some reason, we just could not get to that party. And I'm telling this story just to tell y'all, when you work with spirits and you work in the spiritual world and you're a spiritualist and you let the spirits do their job. Because a lot of times your own spirits, your own ancestors, your Loa, your Orisha, they are trying to protect you from certain situations, certain people, certain things from happening to you in your life. But sometimes we get so hard-headed and we want to fight against what they're telling us so bad that we push to do things. We fight to do things that they're trying to protect us from. So learn how to, have the trust in the spirits, because why else did you invite them into your life and begin to work with them? Because you wanted to build a relationship with them and you wanted to trust them to better your life, to guide your life, to protect you in your life, and to protect your loved ones. That's why we work with the spirits. So sometimes we have to trust our own spirits, our own practice, our own beliefs. Because you never know what they're protecting us from, who they're protecting us from. And, what could happen to us without their protection.
Thank God that her and her loved ones was safe. But I believe in all of that, okay? Not only have I heard New Orleans is a place that does that kind of stuff, has that kind of energy, but also Hollywood, okay? There's a lot of stories where people say that Hollywood is haunted. They experience stuff like that in Hollywood. We're talking about celebrities, influencers, etc., who say similar stories and similar things happening at certain parties there as well. So I believe in all of that, and this story was a perfect example of what we talk about when I say following your intuition, and when I talk about how important your spiritual health is. If her spiritual health was not good, then she probably would have ended up going to the party, and she probably we don't know what would have happened there, okay, if she would have went to the party. But I'm just saying, since her spiritual health was good, she knew the signs. She knew that her intuition was telling her one thing, and she's like, you know what, that's just a sign, okay? And that's absolutely true. Your spirit guides will protect you for certain things. So when people get mad, like, oh man, my Uber canceled, or oh my gosh, I'm running so late and everything's just going wrong, you never know why that's happening. It's probably happening to protect you. So again, make sure you are spiritually healthy so you can hear your spirit guides so you can be protected. Just like I say with your phone, when your phone dies, you need to charge it. Same thing with your spirit. Sometimes you need to cleanse your spirit and charge your spirit. You might need to go on a fast. You might need to pray more. You might need to, engage in things that's going to cleanse your spirit. Okay, go grounding, whatever, meditating. Okay, so glad she made it out.
Still to this day, I believe that my husband was voodoo when we was in New Orleans. So me and him went to New Orleans a few years back, and we was on Bourbon Street, and an incident occurred. But before I tell y'all incident, let me just tell y'all what was going on throughout that night. So as we was walking, we saw a lot of things, women topless, it was just things that people say that goes on in New Orleans, but then you get to experience it for yourself. So that particular night, we were out there drinking, and when I tell y'all, I have never been so intoxicated like that night. Well, I'll take that back, because I have been pretty intoxicated before. But so this woman comes up to my husband, well, my boyfriend at the time, and she was forcing the drinks. Like, they'll come and make you open your mouth and like just chug the drinks with their mouth. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I see and hear about this all the time. And then after that, she demanded like $40. She was like, $40. And my husband was like, first of all, you shoved that drink down my throat, blah, blah, blah. So we're not going to go into all that. But this is the scary part. Well, I won't say scary, but this is where it gets evil, okay? And they say all different type of things about New Orleans. They say that it's deeply ritual into witchcraft, voodoo, hoodooism, all those type of things. She was like, you stay out of it. She said, I want your man. I want him. And she was pointing at him, and I was just like, look, let me just pay for it. This will just all be going away, okay? Well, my husband was still upset at that time, so he was just like, no. So when we was walking away, my husband turned around and looked at the woman, because the woman was like kind of had this hideous laugh, but she was still angry and mad. And he was like, she just did something like this. Like, it was like 2 fingers, and it was like this. And she was just like looking at him, shaking her head. Now, I'm not sure what could have happened. I'm really not sure what, is that a spell or what? But I promise you, at 3 o'clock that morning, he was throwing up sick, and he stopped throwing up 7 days later. He was throwing up the whole way home back to Mississippi, and he was not able to keep nothing down. He was just throwing up repeatedly. I took him to different hospitals. They was just like, nothing is wrong, and they would give him IV drips, and he'll be okay with the fluid. But soon as they took the IV out, he was just back. I'm talking about, he was just throwing up so much. Make a long story short, it was literally 7 days after he stopped finished throwing up. So y'all tell me, what do y'all think about that New Orleans story?
Yeah, I don't care what nobody say. She done did something. She done did something to that man. Like, she done did something. Now, I have heard people say before, when you go to New Orleans, like, don't let nobody hand you anything. Like, don't take anything from somebody when they just trying to hand you stuff, food, drink, items. Don't do that, because they're known to do that kind of stuff there. I heard a story where somebody was talking about they tried to destiny swap with somebody by rubbing elbows. This man on Bourbon Street, they said, wanted this other man to rub his elbow like with him so bad, and they said that was a destiny swapping move. Like, you just gotta be careful, okay? Like, a lot of people just ain't got no business going there, especially when you don't have the knowledge that you need. You ain't got no business going there, okay? But I definitely feel like she done something to him, and you never know. The drink that she tried to barge down his throat might have already had something in it, okay? So even if it wasn't with her hands, it might have been the drink, or it could have been the drink could have been the initial thing, and then with her fingers, that was the activation. So you just never know, okay? You just got to be careful going down there. Please don't take anything from anybody walking on Bourbon Street or anywhere else.
Whenever they tell y'all to take heed when y'all go to New Orleans and watch out what you're doing, it's not a joke, and you should really listen. I've had something happen to me about 5 years ago that I have been very hesitant to speak on, because it's quite scary, and it really happened, and it really mind boggles me that it actually happened. Just a disclaimer, I am very Christian. I believe in God to the fullest, and I worship him with everything. So this story does have a little bit of demonic things going into it, but I myself am not. This is just things that have happened to me, and I'm just sharing my experiences. So about 5 years ago, we had a hurricane here in Lake Charles, Louisiana, which is where I'm from. And during the hurricane, my home was destroyed, all that. So we were living in New Orleans in hotels until FEMA trailers were provided, homes were fixed, things like that. So I was in New Orleans from about beginning of September to the end of November. While I was there, a lot of paranormal, highly spiritual, high demonic things happened. It all started, and I know a lot of y'all gonna be like, this is crazy, why would you have even done that? Mind you, I was 19 at the time. I didn't know no better. I was out there with my friends. I didn't have no family out there. My friends were my family, and we were really just exploring, having fun, trying to make the best of our time while we were there. And I was also not as close to God as I am now as I was then. So we went to Marie Laveau's Voodoo shop that is on Bourbon Street. When we walked in, I felt a little off. I was already kind of scared to go in there. It was not my initial idea to go in. It's just that we were with a group of people and they kind of went in. I kind of was like very hesitant because I knew a lot about voodoo already. I do have an auntie who passed, but she used to practice voodoo, and I heard a lot of stories about her growing up. So I was just overall very fearful, but I still went inside because I was like, really, what's the worst that can happen? I'm just going in here. So we're looking around, all the things. I try not to touch anything, y'all, because I don't know the power of anything, that anything holds in there. I knew that everything was used for dark magic, and I wasn't trying to touch it. So I didn't touch anything. But I did end up coming across the altar that they have in there. I did go by the altar, and I did look at it for a while. I did not leave an offering, and I did not touch it. I know that it said that you're supposed to leave an offering, supposed to leave something, but I know for sure you're not supposed to touch it, and I did not touch it, y'all. I didn't. But I am going to say, after we left that voodoo shop, everything went downhill for me. And it was weird because even though we were all there, I swear I don't think anyone else that was with me experienced what I experienced but me. I'm going to come back in part 2, and I'm going to get into details about all the things that happened because, y'all, we might be here for a minute. Okay, y'all, so part 2 of how I was haunted in New Orleans and my friend got possessed. All right. So we've left the voodoo shop by now, and mind you, because we were displaced, we were staying in hotels, as I mentioned before. So maybe some days had passed, not too many, just a few days had passed or so, and me and one of my best friends were sleeping in my hotel room at the time. So it was a king bed, and she slept on one side, and I slept on the other far end of the other side. And it's the middle of night, so we're sleeping, So as I am trying to sleep, I feel being choked, like hardly choked. And because I was being choked, I woke up. I immediately look over at my best friend, and I'm like, did she just choke me? Because there's no way. But she is, y'all, she passed out. She's knocked out sleep. So I look over on the other side of me, and there he is. There was a tall man figure, whatever. It was a tall man standing over me. But I'm not going to say he was a figure because I clearly remember what he looked like, y'all. I can clearly tell you what he had on. So I don't really know what the outfit is called, but have y'all ever seen like in Africa when they wear like those, I don't know if it's Africa. I really don't know where it's at. I'm going to just say Africa, but correct me if I'm wrong. Where they wear like those full grass suits from head to toe. Let me see if I can figure out what it's called and I'm gonna come back. I couldn't get the name of it, but I know that it's done at the masquerade festivals that they hold. And it's, you know, the full body thing where you can't really see the face too well, but it's like covering from head to toe, and it's like very dramatic. All right. So the man was wearing that, similar to that, but it was bandanas. It was like a full bandana outfit, and it kind of reminded me of something that they were wearing like Mardi Gras, maybe. Like, just like, I don't know what they call it during Mardi Gras either, y'all, because I'm Lake Charles. They don't do Mardi Gras like that. Not like they do it out there, but yeah. So he just had full bandana outfit, but I could still see his face a little. Like the bandana was like right here, but you could still see his grimace and you could still see his eyes, but then the bandana covered that. So he had this part exposed of his face. Y'all, he was standing over me smiling, and instantly I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm tripping. Like, I'm tripping. So, y'all, I get to rub my eyes. I'm like, this not real. He's still there. So, I was scared as hell, but I knew that it wasn't a real person actually there, because I just knew it wasn't. Like, I don't know. I could just tell that whatever it was demonic, and I could tell that it wasn't real. In a sense. So I just covered the covers with my eyes, and I continued to act like I was sleeping. But y'all, that's just the first weird thing that happened. Now what I'm finna tell y'all next, this is where it gets real. This is where things got completely freaky. Completely. All right, y'all. So part 3 of how I was haunted and my friend got possessed while in New Orleans. So after that hotel, I would say maybe a couple weeks later, I was moved into a different hotel. And this is where things got weird. So I know a lot of people have talked about seeing this shadow man with the hat. A lot of people, and I've seen something on TikTok recently, a lot of people were saying how they've seen this man before, they seen this man before, they seen this man. Well, that shadow man with the hat was in my next hotel room. But what was weird was I was not the only person seeing him. People would come and spend the night because, like, I was there with my friends, y'all. So some of my friends would come and spend the night, and y'all, they were seeing him too. They were literally telling me it looked like somebody is standing in the corner. Like, I felt like somebody was watching us while we were sleeping. Somebody was standing in the corner. So that's when I'm like, all right, I ain't tripping. Something is in here. But I know better than anybody else and the next person to know that whenever you know that there's spirits presence in your thing there, the best thing to do most of the time is just ignore them and act like they don't exist, because they normally cannot mess with you unless you give them permission to. All right. So, like I told y'all, I was there for a long time. I was in that specific hotel room for almost a month. So, about a month or so, I'm just in there. I'm seeing this shadow man every night. Eventually, I just kind of got used to it. And then things started getting more creepy. So I ended up switching hotel rooms again for the 3rd time, because they kept having condense. It was a lot going on. So in my new room, he followed me there to the new room, which I thought was pretty odd, because I thought that maybe the only reason why I was seeing him over there is because he was a ghost of that hotel. But apparently he wasn't a ghost of just that hotel. He was just the ghost that wanted me at the time. I don't know. So that's when things started getting even more weird. So he did follow me to the next hotel, and I stayed there until it was time to leave. I did switch rooms at that hotel, but I stayed in that hotel the entire time I was there. Things started moving by themselves. Things were randomly, like, noises were randomly being made. It felt like, I don't know how to explain it, because it's really like y'all, like, I mean, like, you know how something is just thrown across the room, like, just things was just happening, that it was in that moment that I know that that spirit was trying to make himself present. He wanted me to acknowledge that he was there. And then, like, the TV would just be randomly cutting off. There was nothing wrong with the power. It would just, like, it's like somebody was just turning the TV off on me all the time. And I just kept ignoring it, y'all. I just kept ignoring it, because I'm like, So one day, all me, my best friend, and a few of my other friends that were guys and stuff, they were there, and we were all hanging out. My best friend went for a walk downstairs or something like that, and she came back. And when she came back, she was just acting very funny, like, and we were just really like, what's going on with you? So we thought Shawty had got laced or something, because at the time we all smoked. I mean, I don't do that now, but at the time I did. And so we just like, okay, she must have like smoked with somebody down there, some random person, and they done laced her, because we done seen people get laced in New Orleans before. Like, it's not uncommon to get laced. That's what they do, you know what I'm saying? People just, they just don't care about other people's well-beings. So the guys that we with, they instantly like, oh, hell no, we going downstairs. We going to find out who did this. Ain't no way they done laced her. She in here tripping. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So they left, and it's just me and her in the room. And I'm just like, you know, watching her or whatever, making sure she good, making sure nothing happens to her, make sure she don't pass out. You know, I just got to make sure my friend good. So at the minute they left, she gets up and she looks at me. And she was like, you got to get out of New Orleans. You got to get out of New Orleans. I was like, what is you talking about? She like, you got to get out of New Orleans. You got to get in New Orleans. And then right after she said that, y'all, I don't know what happened, but who was speaking to me? That was not my best friend. That didn't sound like my best friend. That was not her voice. That she was not in her right mind. That was a completely different person, y'all. I swear for everything. Y'all, I'm about to tell y'all. Go to part 4. Alright, y'all, so this is part 4 of how I was haunted and my best friend got possessed while we was in New Orleans. So, like I said, that voice that was in my best friend, that was not my best friend, y'all. It was completely different than her regular voice. The voice kind of reminded me of just like a lady of a different time. Definitely had to be from maybe the 20s, or even actually before that. Could have been the 1800s. Honestly don't know what time frame she came from, but the voice was very elegant. I'm not gonna lie, it was very elegant, but it was very distinct, and it was very much of not this time. There was no slang being said. It was no, and to say we were in New Orleans, they had no type of like Cajun or French accent. Not really, at least. It wasn't no accent or nothing. Like, it was like one of the things she said, because she was talking to me, she's like, darling, like, just, darling, if I could do this, then, like, I don't know, y'all get what I'm saying, but Shorty had a different voice, okay? So she started talking in this voice and whatnot, just completely different. She's looking, we're in the bathroom, mind you, at this time, because we moved to the bathroom, because she came in the bathroom, because I was sitting on the toilet, and she came in the bathroom, and she was sitting on the edge of the tub, and she's looking in the corner, and she's like, no, you can't have her. And I'm like, who the hell Shawty talking to? Because ain't nobody right there, y'all. It was literally just some space. So I'm like, who the hell she talk to? And she's like, no, y'all never take her. You'll never take her. And then she look at me and she's like telling me who she's talking to, because I'm asking her, I'm like, who you talking to? She said, the boys. She was like telling me that basically, I'm going to just sum up what she said. The shadow man that I was seeing was not actually a shadow man, but a disguise to scare me. Because if I were to see children, I would be less fearful. I don't understand that. But there were 2 little boys that she was talking to. And the reason why that they were haunting me as a shadow man was because they wanted me to be fearful. They wanted me to myself, which I was very depressed at that time, but I thought I was depressed because of all the things I had going on. But apparently they were sucking my energy and trying to make me depressed because they wanted me to kill myself and come to live with them. She said that I reminded them of their mother, who was a slave, and their father, who was a slave master. Their mother used to get raped by the father, and that is how they came about. The reason why they wanted me to come down there with them is because they no longer had their mother with them. And I don't know where she was. I don't know. Maybe she went to heaven and they didn't. I really don't know. But their mother was not with them. And they felt like I reminded them of their mother because of my weakness. Because the boys, for some reason, knew that I had been SA'd before. And just like their mother who had been SA'd, it reminded them of them, and they thought I would be a perfect fit for them. Very, very creepy, but I'm still here. So she also was like, you need to wear a cross. She said, you have something about you. She was like, something very special. And if I could have it, I would take it. But I can't have it. So you need to protect it. She was like, God is always with you, but you need to protect yourself. And I was just like, So at this point, I'm really confused. Because I'm like, all right, I don't know if this is real or fake at this point. Because not only did my friend just get possessed by something, the thing that's possessing her is trying to help me. So then I'm really getting freaked out because I'm like, I'm really confused, y'all. I'm 100% confused. But yet I knew my friend was possessed because it was not her voice. There was no way possible she could have made that voice because it was literally not her voice. And she's not a voice actor, y'all. She don't know how to do that. So after that, she told me some more information, but I'm going to keep that private to myself because I felt like that was a personal thing. But anyways, after she finished talking and doing all that, I'm still just freaked out, like, because I was trying to engage. I was engaging in conversation with her, but I was just getting more and more freaked out because I'm still at this point like, this is not my friend, y'all. This is not my friend. So I start slapping my friend in her face. I mean, when I tell y'all I slapped the out of her, I slapped the hell out of her. And y'all, when I slapped her, her face didn't even turn. I slapped her, she did this. She just looked at me. So then I'm like, oh, hell no. So I'm like, maybe she is laced. And I was like, let me get her some milk. Because I heard that milk at the time would take your high down. Try to get her to drink the milk. She ain't want to drink the milk. That ain't work. So then I was like, okay, let me run her under some water. So I took her shirt off of her. And I had pushed her into the tub. And I let the water run on her. And right before this is what's crazy, y'all. She still was in it, still talking like this, still saying crazy stuff. The boys was just about to walk into the room. She snapped up out of it. She looked at me. She said, why I'm in the shower? And why do you have water running on me? What's going on? And she's like, where's my shirt? I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you don't remember what just happened? And she like, what are you talking about? Y'all, she didn't know nothing that happened. Nothing that happened. She doesn't remember a piece of anything. And what sucks is I was the only person in the room to tell her what happened. But she does remember one thing. She remembers that she doesn't remember what happened because she knows that she like kind of blacked out in the moment. And she also slept for 3 days straight after that. She said she felt entirely drained. She had to sleep for 3 days straight. Come back for part 5 and I will tell y'all the last bit of the story because it got even more crazier after that. Right, this is the last and final part 5 of how I was haunted and my friend got possessed while we were in New Orleans. So after the days had passed, I had a lot to think about over those days. I'm just in my head about what happened. I was trying to forget about it, but I really couldn't because everything that was said was really like sitting on me heavy. I prayed And I prayed, y'all. I'm not going to say the paranormal stuff stopped directly after that, because I did still see the shadow man in my room. But I knew who it was. But because I knew who it was, I think things actually got a little bit worse in the time period, because that's when the spirits started making themselves more pronounced. Even though I still knew it wasn't the boys, they still never made themselves present. It was still always that shadow man figure. But I after all the weird things happening in the room, like things get thrown around, things get turned off, things just being messed up, I had a feeling it had to been kids then there, because I'm like, this is just, it was that stuff kids do, you know, that's all they know how to do. So then after that, I come to my best friend about it, to her. I'll tell, you know, we talked about the situation some more, this and that and the third. And I'm like, look, I need to get these spirits off of me. I need to find a way to get these spirits off of me. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. I don't want to go and talk to nobody who does voodoo out here, because I don't know. They could have been the one that put it on me. Like, I don't really know, because even though I said everything happened after I went to the voodoo shop, there are plenty of people up and down Bourbon Street that know how to do voodoo magic and sick things on you. So I really didn't know, y'all. So that's when we had the bright idea, and it was said, she was like, we was looking up things on how to do this, how to get rid of them, how to tell them to flee, and the idea of a seance came up. And a seance was the last thing that I wanted to perform, but at that point I felt like I had no other option, and I wasn't as close to God as I was then. So I didn't think that maybe I could just pray it away, or I could go to a priest about this. And quite frankly, I was very ashamed of what happened, because I felt like no one was going to believe me. So it just really got weird. So we did do the seance. I remember exactly how it was done. I'm not going to tell y'all how it was done, because I'm not going to teach y'all how to do one. I don't recommend ever doing that in your life, because you can actually come in contact with things that have nothing for you. But with all being said, so as we're preparing for our seance, we turned off all the lights, things and that. We lit our candles. I'm freaking out, but I'm like, this has to work. So whenever she turned the lights off, I do remember my best friend was like, Danica, it's right behind you. It's right behind you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, it's right behind you. She started crying. And she was like, turn the light on. So they turned the light on. And I'm like, what's going on? She was like, the shadow man, he was standing right over you. He was standing right behind you. I was like, oh my God, hell no. Like, let's hurry up and get this done, because now I'm really getting creeped out. And the fact that you're seeing things now. And it's weird though, because she didn't really have a lot of seeing things. She had her own personal experience. Now, I'm not going to sit there and tell y'all all of her personal experience. This I was allowed to talk about, because I got permission and it happened to both of us. So she allowed me to talk about it. Plus, I am the only person who knows mostly of what happened. So, but she's seen them. So I'm like, oh no. So as we sit in our circle getting ready for our seance, I remember everything got instantly cold, y'all. Cold. I was freezing cold. I was crying, shaking, and freezing cold. And I hadn't even come in contact or started talking to anything. Mind you, the only person that was talking to anything in that room was her. We did have a couple other people in the room with us as well, though. They were there for moral support. But I'm sure they both remember their personal experiences with this, because something was said to each and every one of us in that room that there's no way she would have known, but she was being shown things. It was very weird. So throughout the seance, she came in contact with my grandfather, my great-grandfather. She said some things to him. She was telling me that she was being guided towards a light or a lighthouse or something like that. And they had people reaching out, trying to touch her. And they were like trying to get help. And the thing that was guiding her was telling her no, like telling them, no, you can't get help or things like that. I don't know, y'all. It was weird. When she finally was able to make contact, she did tell the spirits to leave me alone, and I said it out my mouth too, and that they had no room there for me, that they couldn't be there, like they were not allowed. And eventually, once it was over, everything seemed to go back to normal. that was the most freakiest experience I had ever experienced in my life. That is the most demonic and paranormal thing as ever done in my life. I would never ever partake in those things again. And quite frankly, I do still visit New Orleans from time to time, but I am still afraid each time I go. But I know that I have the Jesus with me now more than I had then. I have him now because I got myself saved, okay? So I'm not like so fearful, but I'm not gonna say I'm fearful. I'm gonna play this. I'm not fearful. I am very mindful of what I do and where I go when I'm there. Just my overall thing is to let y'all know, please take heed when y'all go there, because there are things that can happen and you don't know how powerful you are until something is coming after you. You don't know what God placed in you, what gifts that you have. You don't know anything. You just don't know what is going to come after you. You doesn't know what wants what you have. You might be the most regular person in the world, and it does not mean nothing to these spirits out there. Just be mindful and do not, I repeat, do not let curiosity kill the freaking cat. Don't go into that voodoo shop. All right? Now, that's all I had to say.
Okay, first of all, there's so many problems with the last story. So many problems, okay? I just do not understand for the life of me why people who have no business dabbling into like voodoo, hoodoo, shops, practices, touching the materials, anything like that, would do it, okay? This is not the first time that I've heard a story similar. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell y'all. On YouTube, I don't know if any of y'all remember this, but it was probably around 3-4 years ago to where there was a trend on YouTube to where people was like, oh, I used to do tarot reading. I used to do be in astrology, and then I turned my life over to Christ. It was a whole trend going on, y'all, to where it said something like witchcraft to Christ or like tarot to Christ, whatever, right? You don't have no business dabbling into things that you know nothing about. See, the spiritual world is not the real world, the physical world, okay? They know things based off the spiritual world. They know what's going on with you, okay? So if you are playing around and like, oh, this is trending right now, let me look into astrology. This is trending. Let me look into tarot reading. Let me do hoodoo voodoo because it's trending. They know the real versus the curious, okay? Also known as the real versus the fake, okay? Just like religion, it can be something sacred, you know what I mean? That's the same thing for other practices, whether you want to acknowledge that or not. There are people who was raised in voodoo hoodoo, okay? That's part of their culture. Just like you believe in religion, that is what they believed in. That is what they have grew up doing and practicing. So that's sacred to them. So people who go around and like, oh, I'm curious, let me just go in a shop and see this and see that. Stuff like this happens to you, okay? Because they can see, spirits can see what's going on. They know people, again, who are authentically, genuinely there because they are supposed to be there. Starting their spiritual journey, practicing that, and then they know people who just playing around, going in there just to be curious, okay? So whatever you believe in, whatever you practice, stand on it and stick to what you know and what you're supposed to be doing, okay? Because stuff like this happens. That YouTube trend I was talking about, all of these people start practicing that stuff and got spooked. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to see spirits. I'm starting to... Stop playing. This ain't nothing to play with. It's not nothing to play with. Okay? And the people who really practice that, they know that. Okay? Like, y'all be tripping hard, like just playing with stuff that you ain't got no business playing with. And I don't know if y'all heard about the Caucasian woman who joined a group with hoodoo, voodoo people in it, witchcraft, whatever. She joined a group. And she was asking questions in the group about this hoodoo voodoo thing she was trying to do against her ex, who was black. Okay, I think she was in a same-sex relationship. I think it was like a black female, if I'm not mistaken. And she was asking how to do certain stuff, and they warned her and they said, hey, don't do that. Because this is not your tradition. You are not somebody who's supposed to be practicing this. so don't do this, okay? She's like, oh, anybody can do this, blah, blah, blah. It don't matter what color I am, blah, blah, right? She ended up unalived. And let me tell you how. She went into a bath. They found her in a bathtub, drowned, y'all, after trying to practice that certain stuff that night. She ended up unalived by drowning in her bath, y'all. So y'all let me know what that was, okay? You can't, especially when you are of another color, right? Going to a practice that is known to be another color, that came from another color, trying to unalive somebody of their color. Like, not smart. You got to go to what is known to you, what is down your bloodline, whatever works for you, okay? Y'all already know I'm not religious. I'm more for what works for you, okay? So, again, stop playing. Stop playing. This is nothing to play with. Another thing I wanted to address was when she said that, like, the spirits or entities was saying that they wanted her to be more fearful, so that's why they brought the shadow man up. That is because when you are in fear, you are in your lowest vibration. They want you to be in your lowest vibration because this is how possession happens. So that's why I'm not a fan of certain practices and certain belief systems that have you operating in fear, because it's like fear is really the lowest power that you have, okay? Meaning that you are subject to certain entities, certain things happening for you because you are not in your highest vibration, okay? I am not fearful. I have seen, if you follow me, you know I have seen all kind of stuff. If I tell y'all the stuff that I see, that I have seen, it will probably spook you. But I'm not fearful. I don't have any fear when I see things, hear things, smell things. I don't have a fear. Okay, so I'm never touched or anything like that because I don't have a fear. It just is what it is. I know different realms exist. I know different spirits exist. It is what it is. They walk around us all the time. Some can see it, some can't. I'm just one who can see it. But when you are fearful and you have a big fear of things, that's how they possess you. That's how they enter into you. So notice her conversation, like, oh, they wanted you to be more fearful. That's why they show the shadow god. Yeah, because they need you to be in your lowest frequency. So what did we learn from this, or what should we have learned from this? First of all, be careful, okay? I personally feel like certain people shouldn't even probably go to New Orleans at all, okay? But if you are going to go to New Orleans, have knowledge, okay? Stop messing with stuff that you have no business messing with stuff. I don't care if it's curiosity. I don't care if it's trending. I don't care if it's cool. If you're not supposed to be doing it, you are not supposed to be doing it. And 9 times out of 10, if your bloodline has not initiated you into it, you have not practiced this for generations, stop messing with stuff you have no business messing with, because stuff like this happens, okay? Be careful. By all means, be careful. I personally do not think it's very smart for you to be under the influence, especially when you are spiritually vulnerable, okay? Because again, stuff like this happens. You have got to be careful. Don't take anything from nobody. Don't drink anything from nobody. Don't eat anything from nobody. I wouldn't even do no substances in a new place like that. New Orleans, no. I don't recommend that you get any substances from there, okay? Be careful, be mindful, y'all. Y'all let me know how y'all like this. Have y'all had any crazy stories, or know anybody who had crazy stories visiting New Orleans? Again, we are doing the witchcraft series. I might spice it up a little bit for Halloween, but specifically on Fridays, we might do the dates gone wrong. So we're going to see. But make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I will see y'all on the next one.